Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is David, the Cicada Czar Cross.
I'm buzzed to be here.
Well, thank you all for
Uh,
joining us. This is Movies, Films, and Flicks. How's it feeling, Mr. Cicada Czar?
yeah, well, I just woke up from my multiple year nap and I got a lot of energy. So we better get to this.
How much do you remember of this movie?
Oh, that's a great question. So I did watch it
Is that
yesterday
why you have a
and
beard? You slept for 3 years. You have a huge beard right now. Your hair's grown.
yeah, I have long hair and a beard. To answer your real question, Mark, I don't remember a lot of this movie. I
The,
remember feelings of this movie.
the memory turns happens. And
Yes.
and I'm not that's not an insult. It's just a movie that happens. And they're like you've already had the wow factor from the 99 Mummy, and a lot of this film is basically the same stuff, but bigger. And it's fun. It's a TNT movie. But yeah, there's you don't hold on. I've watched this movie a few times, right? And I even watched it kind of again today. And I feel like it's one of those movies that just leaves your memory
Hmm.
immediately. Like whereas 99 Mummy, I feel like I can play it all in my head. This one's just a bigger, louder, pardon me saying this, but dumber action sequel that's still fun. And we're gonna talk about it. We're not super down on it, but yeah, it's in and out. It's there and gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I had the same feeling. Prepping for this podcast, I was like, okay, I'm gonna think about each scene. And I was like, wait, there's no real stopping point between scenes. It's just action, one line of dialogue, action, one line of dialogue for 2 hours. Is it a 2 hour movie?
And yeah, a little bit longer than that. And people get kidnapped, and then someone else gets kidnapped, and someone gets killed, and then someone a plane is totally obliterated, and he's like, "Fix it," and then it's fixed. It's but you know what though? At the end of the day, with this film, when I said this is a TNT movie, this is a film that has Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser. They are wonderful together. They have such great chemistry, no matter what they're doing. We have everyone from the Mummy's back, and I like them all. So it's just nice to see them on screen, like Ardith Bay. Yes, give me more of him. Like, give me more of Oded Fehr. Like, give me more of a Noxua Moon. Like, just I like it, and I like mummies. I like treasures. I like when people are going to a ancient oasis that Dwayne the Rock Johnson was at for a while. Like, give me those movies. Anything with treasure, I give a B minus. I really do. And the movie. There's enough there to watch, and that's why it's a perfect movie to put on cable and then go mow the lawn, come back on, see a scene, and be like, oh yeah, that's funny, and then go, I don't know, have a glass of water, and then come back, and then come back and be like, hey, I like this part. It's a tall grass scene. It's like Jurassic Park, the second
I
one.
thought the same thing. I
It's
thought
like
exactly the same thing when I saw that. I was like,
it's
which one came first? Is really what was in my head. I was like, this is which one?
it's like in the tall grass with Patrick Wilson, where he's wearing a pastel polo and has a mustache and it's all evil.
Yeah. I agree with you on that sentiment of for me, this feels like a movie where I come home, I've had a long day, I don't really want to think too hard. I just want to be entertained and I put it on and then I just watch it while scrolling through my phone. And then I look up for certain moments that I know are coming or that I think might grab my attention. Like anything with Rachel Weisz fighting is actually really good and an upgrade from the original Mummy. The double decker scene I think is great.
Yep.
And but then like it gets sort of like repetitive in the middle, and I'm like, I don't really need to pay attention to the dirigible scene. And
No.
honestly, I actually don't like the pygmy scene. I think that's like the moment where the movie jumped the shark for me. Not that having a giant scorpion person doesn't jump the shark, I guess.
And I mean, listen, Patricia Velasquez and Rachel Weisz, Evelyn, and Anaxua Moon. According to Stephen Sommers, they put in 90% of the stunt work in this too, and you can
Mm-hmm.
see it. Like, I like these two a lot in this movie. And you know what I was thinking about? I was thinking about sequels, and I had to do an assignment for the Lost World Jurassic Park, which is a sequel to arguably one of the most popular, beloved films of all time. It's one of the most beloved films ever, most successful. It's an amazing movie. But the main complaint about the Lost World Jurassic Park, no, yeah, the Lost World Jurassic Park was that it wasn't as good as Jurassic Park. It's like, yeah, what is? Like, that's not a fair comparison. Like, you can't You can't just be like, well, it's not as good as one of the greatest movies of all time that hit lightning in a bottle. It's not like Jaws 2 was not as good as Jaws. And you're like, well, duh. Like what? Like, and it's like, well, name a sequel that's as good. And someone's like, Empire, Godfather 2, name more. It's there's not that many out there. Sure, there are. Like, I guess the later Captain America movies or Ragnarok, whatever. But
Fast and Furious 5.
Oh yeah, the Mummy though. But the Mummy 99, and we talked about it on the show years ago. I feel like it's been 5,000 years, like Dwayne Johnson, that we talked about that movie, or the Scorpion King. I'm sorry, but that movie is such lightning in a bottle. The chemistry between Weisz and Brendan Fraser, Kevin J. O'Connor as Benny is one of the all-time great foils. Even I feel like the VFX look better in 99 than it does here because there's less of it and it's more focused. Here it doesn't look as good because they had to stretch it out. Like there's a lot more VFX shots. So you have a movie that filled that Indiana Jones void almost perfectly. It really did. But like you can't like to come back and think that you can recapture that magic that you don't even know how you got in the first. They didn't even know that, like Stephen Sommers was saying, they didn't even know what the tone was of the first one. And it just sort of came together. So with this film, everyone came back. He said he got the same crew, same group of people. I think they all had a ton of fun. They had infinite money. And I don't think the pressure helped. I think it's just a fun movie. But the problem is like it's not as good as Mummy. But like that's really hard to be as good as The Mummy 99. That movie's beloved by a lot of people. I mean, huge growth on DVD. People love that film. So as far as a sequel goes, that comes out a couple years later, it's bigger. It's fine. It's a fine sequel.
What I was thinking about when you were talking about sequels is really the expectation of sequels. And it sounds like when you have a movie that is extremely well loved, really iconic. I consider The Mummy iconic. As someone who watches a lot of movies and want to see sequels, I don't expect them to hit, another home run, but I expect them to be, somewhere closer to it than this movie. Like this movie is like, it's probably a single, right? You know what I mean? It's like a home run versus single, and they're both good.
Explain the plot to me,
my
David.
God. I thought you would ask me this, and I tried to come up with it in the shower this morning. And let me tell you, I failed hard. Okay. This is from my understanding. Again, it could be wrong. A partially reincarnated Anuxinamon brings back Imhotep to battle the Scorpion King, to take control of an army that Anubis gave the Scorpion King in order to then take over the world. In the process, the O'Connor family is pulled into it because Evie is seeing flashbacks to her previous life as a member of the Egyptian Codier. I actually don't know what she was doing. That's it. They end up fighting for the what is it? The army.
Yeah, she was Nefertiti, the daughter of the pharaoh Set.
Is that close? Did I get close?
I think you did. Yeah, because they're just trying to bring back the mummy to battle the Scorpion King, and they need the bracelet that's on the kid's arm to control the army of Anubis. But they have to get there by a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so needlessly complicated because the first one, he's like, hey, I just need to become whole again. And Rachel Weisz looks familiar. Like, and that's it. This one,
there's too much happening all at once. This movie really needed some simplification. And I think personally, I think there's a couple small things that made this movie not work as well as it could have. And first, I think this movie, the antagonist of this is actually Imhotep and not O'Connor. O'Connor is the protagonist.
Oh, in the first one, are you saying because he was the rogue? He was the rakish sort of.
Well, I mean, in Returns, I think when we wait 30 minutes to see the mummy in the Returns before we see him, like it needs to focus on what his goals are more.
The mummy.
Yeah. He's actually the antagonist in this, or protagonist. He's making decisions. Then Rick is bouncing off those decisions.
Oh yeah, I mean he does. I mean let's move forward. We need the kid. We need the bracelet. Mm-hmm. Let's get to this place. I need to become whole again. And then he gets his powers taken away. He's like, oh, I guess he wants me to fight him mortally. Oh, I will say, The one thing I really like about Arnold Vosloo is I wrote an article for Cracked back in the day about actors who bust out some really great acting in the middle of a gigantic action film, and at the end, when Arnold Vosloo is stuck on the like he's the hell demons are pulling him in, and Anaxua Moon just ducks, and he just starts crying and then gives himself up. Like that's what you want more of. Like this is a guy who, yeah, he. You know what's interesting? Like let's bring him back to battle the Scorpion King, but they both want to destroy the world, correct?
I guess.
Yeah.
It's like the
So why
Scorpion
bring him
King,
back to battle the Scorpion King?
because they believed he was the only one who could defeat the Scorpion King, but then he got there and lost his powers, meaning that the entire thing was useless.
Oh yeah. And then they're like he's getting more powerful. Like Ardith Bay's like he's getting more powerful. He'll be more powerful than the Scorpion King soon. No one can stop him. And you're kind of thinking they brought back a guy who wants to destroy the world to destroy another guy who wants to destroy the world. But I guess you know this guy who wants to destroy the world. So then maybe he'll keep you around because you worship him.
It's very confusing. I don't really understand the plot. I actually think it's a misstep with Imhotep and Anck-su-namun's characters compared to the first movie, because their whole thing is like they have they're bonded for life, right? They're soulmates. And in this movie, as much as I love the acting in that scene where he lets himself fall, it's the best. It is literally the best part of the whole movie. It also doesn't make sense for the characters because Anck-su-namun, who previously died for Imhotep, would save him. That's how their relationship works. Like I believe they are more soulmates than I believe Evie and Rick are.
Yeah, and well, doesn't she run away just because she's the reincarnation? She's not the full. She doesn't have the soul yet. She's kind of like is she a Anck-su-namun light?
That's where it's confusing. She's the reincarnation of the body, and then she gets the soul or the memories. I think she gets.
She wouldn't duck out. She killed herself to get with him later, so she wouldn't be like deuces.
Yeah,
after
I don't know. I don't know. It's very confusing. But I always thought that she ended up being the full reincarnation of Anck-su-namun, and maybe she's not. Maybe she just gets the memories, just like Evie gets the memories.
And I just want everyone to know who's listening to this. I take this show very seriously. So I watched this movie. I listened to the commentary. I even watched the Mummy Returns Explained. I watched VFX artists fix the Scorpion King. I watched a bunch of videos on top of the commentaries in the movie just to get a handle on this film. But it's one of those movies that just like it leaves your brain. It's like in Harry Potter when they take the stuff out of their heads. Like I feel like that's what this movie is. I think you explain the plot the best it's going to get.
Yeah, and I left a lot out.
And I think some people are probably pulling their hair out. They're like, no, it's that easy. But I don't think it, because the Scorpion King comes out. The Scorpion King just gets stabbed and is dead. Like and then the army of Anubis, right? This is the problem with a lot of these movies. Like we're going to raise an army, but a bunch of dudes with swords take out a big chunk of it. I mean, I know it's the 30s, but imagine what a Gatling gun does to these things. Like, I mean, is the army infinite because they come from the sand, or is it just a finite number? Like wherever there's sand, there's an army, or is it just that?
These are all questions that the director and producers did not think about. You were thinking harder about this movie than they did.
Because if you kill it and it becomes sand and it goes back into the sand, it would be scarier if they just raised up again. Because then you're like, oh crap, like we can kill them, but they just pop right back up. So, but in this one, they're just decapitating them. Like they just run through them. A gigantic army, by the way, of Magi. Like there's 50,000 of them. But yeah, they wipe out the army of Anubis, and then another one comes from nowhere to battle them. But where did I got nothing. There's
nothing. It's just you needed a way to show that there's a bunch of people that Rick is trying to stop from taking over the world.
And I will tell you, I watched this movie in 2001 in the theater. I don't think school had gotten out yet. School got out in June, so school was still going around. It was almost the end of my senior year. And I remember this theater was packed opening weekend. I mean, this movie, this movie brought in 68 million its opening weekend in 2001. Then it only dropped 50% to 33. But then get this, then it only dropped 39% to 20 million. Then it only dropped 25% to 15 million. Then it dropped to 74211. So it almost had a 2-month run in the theaters during the summer. So people were watching this.
I
But
saw it in the theater.
I remember watching it, man, in '01. I was like, phew, phew. I was like, when
Yeah.
that when he sucked all that water out, I'm like, well, this is the sand scene. When they're on the bus, I'm like, this is like the car scene. And it's yeah, and then I feel like Evie and Rick kind of regressed a little bit because in the beginning they're just pilfering a temple, three of them, and the and then they open up another box. And you're like, guys, like what's happening here? And then they also sent three. The bad guys only sent what Mister what Hafez. He only sent in 3 people to get the bracelet, which can control the entire army of Anubis. It, I don't know. I just remember no one watching this and going, "This isn't it." I
Yeah.
never disliked it. I didn't dislike the kid. You know, the only reason they picked a kid, Stephen Sommers, is because he didn't want to work with a 3 or 5-year-old, so he just made the kid 9. Like, he's like, I did not want to work with a little kid, so let's get him a little older. But it
But they didn't have to have a kid in this.
no,
Like
this
there's
could
a
have been a year
much
later.
easier. Yeah, yeah. There's a much easier plot to this that
They're on
could
their
have been.
honeymoon.
Yeah, they're on their honeymoon, and you know what? The Scorpion King is rising, and they need to raise Imhotep and partner with him to defeat him. There you go. It's super simple. And
Oh,
then you have the fight with the Scorpion King, and then you have another fight with Rick and Imhotep and Evie.
and put the Rock in it. You don't need to make the
Yeah,
Rock a
exactly.
scorpion. The Rock is a big man. You don't need to make him bigger. But the problem is Brendan Fraser's big,
Yeah,
and
he's
so
tall.
is
He's real
Arnold
tall.
Vosloo. But I mean, the Rock's still big. Give him a bunch of other give him a like little scorpions that attack. Right? It's just give him a scorpion tail. I don't know. But yeah, raise that's a really good idea. Like, yeah, they're on their honeymoon. It doesn't matter if it's 2 years later. They're on their honeymoon. You don't need a kid. They have to raise him. Boom. Because that's geez Louise, David.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
saying
mean,
we should be like Stephen Sommers is great. I love him. Deep Rising. I think he's made some very fun movies. But yeah, and I was watching the fluffiest behind the scenes documentary ever. Everyone's like, well, we didn't want to come back unless the movie was better. And but I believe they all thought it was better. This seemed like an easy, like a pretty not easy. They went to the deserts, and this was a tough. Like they were building sets on the back of flatbed trucks and just driving them around. Like this wasn't an easy production, but they had everything they needed and they knew the tone. So I think they were more confident going into this one, and they had all the money. And also, I'm going to jump off, but if you're listening to MFF for a while, you know, in the commentary, Stephen Sommers kept talking about how this is when Brendan Fraser blew out his knees. This is when Brendan Fraser blew out his ribs. This is when Fraser. This is when Brendan Fraser hurt his back. This is when he hurt his neck. And when you read that GQ interview that he did maybe 4 or 5 years ago, he talked about how the movies wrecked his body and he just couldn't do it anymore. So I felt really bad listening to Stephen Sommers talk about how Brendan Fraser just destroyed his body for this movie because he paid for it later, and he's a big dude. That like when you're 6'4" and that big, like you're a blown out back is not going to be fun. So yeah, I felt bad for Fraser. He put his body on the line for this, and then he said he regretted it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could have got a lot more action movies out of him if not for this movie, honestly. Because he did a couple smaller ones after this, like Journey to the Center of the Earth, Ink Master,
Which
but they're
did
not like
Journey did good too,
it did. I liked it. I saw it in the theater. But yeah, and he did the next Mummy, obviously.
which was big.
Yeah, but here, I guess here's the question. Was he doing the cartoon stuff after this? I kind of confused the timeline of that.
The cartoon stuff. What's the cartoon
Like
stuff?
he's the
Oh,
Mountie
here,
Canadian.
here, let me pull this up. So yeah, let's see. So he did Furry Vengeance in 2010. That didn't help. Let's see. The Nut Job 2014. He didn't really disappear for that long. Like, so let's see. I'm trying to get here. So in 99 he did The Mummy, then Dudley Do Right 99 as well. Then he did Bedazzled, Monkey Bone, Mummy Returns, Quiet American, Looney Tunes Back in Action, then Crash. Then he followed that up with Journey to the Center of the Earth, The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Empire, Emperor, Inkheart, G.I. Joe, Extraordinary Measures, Furry Vengeance, Escape from Planet Earth. He had a bunch of directed DVD movies, and then he did TV shows like Texas Rising, The Affair, Trust, Condor. And then he popped back into movies with like No Sudden Move, The Whale, Then he was in Doom Patrol for a while. Then he was in Titans, and now he's going to be in Killers of the Flower Moon. Wow. So yeah, I mean, does that answer your question?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, he did sort of act, not really actiony stuff, not
Yeah,
like this. Yeah,
yeah.
this was sort of his last action movie.
This was the last one. I mean, you watch Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, but in that one you have Jet Li, you have Michelle Yeoh, you have his son doing a lot of the action. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, Journey to the Earth is more of a kids movie. He's kind of just hanging from stuff and maybe around VFX. But yeah, I think this is one of the last ones where he was really in it.
Yeah,
It
I
wrecked
mean,
his body.
would we have wanted a long-term action star Brendan Fraser?
Man, I mean, listen, you watch The Mummy and the dude's got it. 99 Mummy, you watch this one, he's got it. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have minded. He's a like, but the problem is he's so congenial. I don't know if he could be a Liam Neeson. I don't know if he could do a Bruce Willis or like he couldn't be a hard boiled cop. He couldn't be Jack Slater, CIA operative, you
Mhm.
know, like confidential. He's more of a, I don't know, a yarn type guy, like Looney Tunes back in action. Like I don't, yeah, I don't know if we could ever see him in Universal Soldier
Yeah,
playing.
I don't. Mm-mm. So I kind of glad we didn't get a all action hero Brendan Fraser, because I think at his heart he is an actor's actor.
This dude wanted to do the Quiet American, like
Hmm.
he Gods and Monsters. Like he wanted to. I mean, this is a guy who got his start like with honors, and then he did School Ties. Like yeah, I think he wanted to act. He's just a really
Hmm.
big dude who's also funny, and I think you kind of get pigeonholed sometimes in those roles. But you could tell that he really wanted. But I also think Hollywood put you in more of a box in the '90s. Like Colin Farrell got put in a box, but now he's out of it. Like I think Hemsworth was able to get out of it. So I think Brendan Fraser kind of got like, oh, that's a Brendan Fraser movie. He's really pleasant. No one
Hmm.
wanted to see him in Only God Forgives or what's another gnarly picture. They didn't want to see him in The Last House on the Left remake.
Oh,
They just wanted, B Man.
do I want a horror movie Brendan Fraser? I kind of do now that you said it. Like I want him to take the trajectory that Russell Crowe and has done, and I guess it's really Russell Crowe. Like Russell Crowe in the later stage, Russell Crowe has gone pretty wild with
Yeah.
his Duel. I think it was Duel, and then the Pope's Exorcist. He's just doing wacky stuff, and I love it.
He's made so much money. He doesn't care. I think he just likes doing these movies now. And listen, the one thing about Fraser is he could maybe do a Patrick Wilson type role, like an
Mm-hmm.
Insidious, where he's just super earnest. Because you watch The Whale. I did not like The Whale. I did not enjoy it. But the warmth that he was and the humanity he was able to find in his character in those places, like that's why he won the Oscar. Like the movie, I don't think is that good, but he was able to find something in there. So I think if you can use him as just a really good person up against it, that would definitely work. I mean, he's never done that full heel turn, has he? Like he's never gone full Barry Keoghan killing of a sacred deer.
Yeah,
He's never.
not that I know of. I really don't. I don't think he has.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, do we want that from him? But he's big. He's a big dude. Like if you if the right director used him well, he could be a good villain. I just don't know if he's down for that.
I don't think he is, or maybe he hasn't been offered it because no one thinks he'd want to do it.
Yeah, that's true. The good news is he's in Killers of the Flower Moon. People are
Yeah.
loving him now. So
Yeah.
maybe he will be able to enter the sort of character actor stage of his career. Maybe he'll be able to go full Colin Farrell and embrace the weirder roles.
So Mark, I know I asked you before we started if you wanted to do a comparison. So of this movie compared to our last movie, using the dead shot or bloodshot criteria.
Yeah, let's do it. Bloodshot versus Last Witch Hunter.
No, bloodshot. No, oh my god. I was thinking we can do bloodshot versus last witch hunter. That would be no. I thought you said bloodshot versus the mummy, and I was like, that's odd. You didn't. You didn't. I made that all up. Um.
Well, listen to the
So
episode though. Bloodshot versus Last Witch Hunter. It's a fun one.
yeah, it's fun. So what the categories here are best performance, best villain, best action scene, best supporting actor, and best all around movie.
All right, you want to start with best all around movie?
Yeah, then we can start there.
Oh, so it's got to be Mummy 99.
Obviously, it's Mummy 99, and what I felt this movie Mummy Returns was trying to do was be nostalgic for a movie that only happened like 2 years prior. And it's like the same gags. It's like, oh, remember that time they did this 2 years ago? That type of writing only works if it's a sequel or a legacy sequel and it's been a decade. It's been 2 decades. It doesn't work 2 years later. And
Like
and the specific scenes I'm talking about, like the little kid knocking over the pillars, that's the same scene from the first one. I'm sure there's another one, but
the bus scene is like the car scene with
yeah,
faster mummies. The water scene is like the sand scene. They brought her back, she died, he got pissed, like he died, like this whole, yeah, there's a lot of callbacks to, and like the cheeky pilot, then you have another cheeky pilot. So yeah, there's a lot, and Jonathan being like a rascal. It's just a lot of that.
Yeah. And they also didn't lean into the horror element as much as the first movie. There's really only one scene, maybe two, that I was like, oh, this is scary. So that when they first dig up Imhotep's, I don't know, corpse,
Yeah.
the beetles go through a guy's back, which is pretty terrifying. And then I guess when he is forming his full body again, when he kills the three grave robbers, that's kind of scary, but it holds nothing on the first movie. The first movie had a lot of like gruesome stuff in it.
Yeah, this one's a yarn. This is just a big yarn. This is a big, I'm going to say a yarn a third time in 10 seconds, but this is just a big action picture. They really leaned away from the horror. But I mean, they also kind of stuck to, they wanted to sort of stick to the classic Universal stuff. I think this one was just more freewheeling once you bring in the kid, once you have those on. But you know what's interesting? I was listening to someone talk about this film, and they said that as a kid, they watched them both back to back, and they loved the first one better because even as a kid, they noticed that the Mummy Returns was trying to pander to them as a kid by bringing in a kid. So they didn't like it as much. But like, if you look at Temple of Doom, that brings in a kid, but that's a cool kid. And that movie's dark and it leans. I mean, that's partly responsible for PG-13. So there are ways to handle that, but also that's not Indy's kid. It's just a kid, a cool kid. So I think there's a difference there. There's just different ways to handle bringing in kids. And this kid's fine though in this movie. This kid has a lot of heavy lifting to do in this movie.
He has the most lifting.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Like the kid is not bad, but too much heavy lifting for the kid.
I mean, I think you nailed it. This feels like a movie that they're like, the first one did so well. And they're like, why did it do well? Well, it's a 4-quadrant movie. And then they're like, we're going to make a 4-quadrant movie. And it's actually not what made it well, right? It felt like they're just trying to get as many people into theater as possible, appease everyone. And it ended up just being bland and appeasing probably a small percentage of people, not everyone, but not as many people as they wanted.
And listen, it still made $400 million.
That's
like around
huge,
the
though.
world.
Oh my God.
But that shows how much people loved the first film. That's like, and you know what's crazy? I thought this movie made 433 million worldwide, and that placed it in, I think, 7th in 2001, which is not terrible. Yeah, I mean, it beat out Jurassic Park 3, it beat out Rush Hour 2, it beat out a bunch of sequels. So The Mummy Returns beat out Jurassic Park 3, Hannibal, Rush Hour 2, American Pie 2, Laura, oh no, yeah, so yeah, and it beat the Fast and Furious. I hate that. Beat Dr. Dolittle 2. So yeah, I mean, as it made a lot of money, dude. It was number 7 in the year. That's crazy. So people didn't hate it, like, right? So like this movie wasn't hated.
It's still not hated. No. It's a different time though. Like our ability to consume media at that point was much smaller. Like I would go see movies multiple times because that's all I could do.
That's true. And
like,
and,
if this, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. And like prestige television wasn't around yet. You could maybe rent from Netflix. I mean, we had Sopranos coming around now and Sex in the City, and there were good shows on network television. But yeah, this wasn't Oz. But yeah, this wasn't. We weren't there yet. Like you're right. You would go to the movie 3 times to go see something because you're either at Blockbuster or you're watching what's on TV or you are going back to the theater. So yeah, it's true. There's a lot less to do. But it was just interesting that with this movie, like you said, it wanted to be everything to everyone, but it still wasn't I don't know. I think this if this movie was Mummy good, it would have made 600 million.
Oh, easy, easy. And it could have been just a small couple changes that we talked about. Let's jump into performance. What do you think is the best performance in this? And last time we did this, it was Vin versus Vin. Do you want to do Fraser versus Fraser and then Weisz versus Weisz, or do you want to just do performances in the entire movie?
Well, I mean, it's got to be it's all the first movie. I mean, I think Rachel Weisz does some good with physicality. Like she worked a lot for this movie, and she's more of an action hero in this. But she was just so charming in the first one. Fraser was so charming and caddish, and he doesn't have a Kevin J. O'Connor in this movie. He doesn't have a Benny in this film. I mean, Kevin J. O'Connor was the Trump, like was the aces in that
absolutely.
movie. I mean, people love him. This movie is lacking the because if you think about the villains, you don't really even think about them. I mean, Loch is fine, but Benny was just the best. He was just so yeah. Fraser doesn't have anybody to act up against that, and in this one, the majority of the film is like, oh, I gotta go rescue Rachel. I gotta go rescue my son. I gotta do this. I gotta go get saved by somebody. So he doesn't have. There's no arc at all. There's zero arc for him in this movie. It's just like me and my wife are ride or die, and we're gonna save our kid. You don't need emotional arc in it, but he actually had somewhat of an arc in the first one. Rachel Weisz, she was just so charming in the first one.
She was great.
Yeah, and she's good in this one. Yeah, just I think everyone. I mean, Arnold Vosloo probably, like you said, gets the best moment in this. I mean, I think Oded Fehr gets more to do. He gets a really good kill. He does kill Loch, but movie isn't about the performances. It's just about zipping people from scene to scene. I think there was a lot more time to relax in the first film that this one doesn't have.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out how many like good lines Fraser had, and it's very small. I don't even think I got one. Because he's mostly just saying one-liners and quips and then running.
Yeah, that's it. Get in the car. Yeah. Go. And yeah.
So I agree with you that Weisz did get a better part, or a different part. She was able to like bite into something a little bit more than everyone else.
That's true, but she's still not as good as the first movie when she just gets kind of drunk and yeah.
And what we haven't mentioned is like in the media, the trailers for this, like Weisz and the fight scene and that in ancient Egypt between the two women, that was
the trailer.
It was that in The Rock.
Yeah, that was it. A huge rock push. I mean, in 2001, The Rock was gigantic, and gigantic, and but wrestling I think was huge. I mean, wrestling's still popular, but this wasn't. It was all that fight scene pretty much, and people, you go to look up this movie, and that's most of the stuff. Like I looked on YouTube, and that fight scene has 16 million views. So people they like action Vice.
It's also well choreographed. It's a great. Good fight scene.
They're in it. That's what I like the most, though. They're in it. Like you can see them in it. I know they have masks, but like they're in it. So I think he had to find some stunt doubles from France for a couple of the shots, but he said 90% it's them, which makes me happy.
Okay. So best villain.
Oh, I mean, the one in the first movie makes sense. And remember when he kills the 3 Americans in the first film? How like that's scary. And then the cat scene and also too, the mummy had a right to be pretty pissed. I mean, I know he cheated on the Pharaoh's wife, but they did him dirty. And now the dude wants to get everyone else back. So yeah, that's it. That's it for me. It's a better villain.
So I agree. I mean, again, the mummy at full power would have crushed the Scorpion King. You hit on something that I forgot to mention when we were like talking about the movie and how they really changed Imhotep and Anaximon's characters and really their story as well. Because when I watched The Mummy, their story to me is they kill Anaximon's abuser. And then in this movie, you have Evie with the past memories of her as being a guard taking revenge on an abuser. For her abuser. So I was like, what is she even good at this? Do I want her to win?
Yeah, the better villains are in the first one, for sure. Yeah, but he does get a great moment in this. Vosloo does, but it's not. No, like there's no Kevin J. O'Connor. There's no. One has the better villains.
Okay. Best action scene.
Still won because of the sand.
The
That
sa- would,
sand in '99, that sand looked better than anything in the 2001.
but what particular scene?
Oh, the face in the sand.
Oh, the face in
Dude,
this.
maybe it's just me in '99, but ILM destroyed it in '99 with that sand. I watch that scene now and I go, that's good. Like that holds up. That the water scene in this one, nah. The bus scene, nah. They shut down the London, was it the London Bridge? They shut down the actual location for the fight scene in Mummy Returns. Like big budget money, but yeah, the still the Mummy is still the huge wave of sand.
Yeah, that's really good. I would say for me, it's between the actual opening scene in The Mummy when him and Benny are being attacked.
Oh yeah.
It's really good. And then it is the first fight between Evie and Anaximandrone, which I think I prefer that better than more than the second fight. I think we're going to disagree here. I actually went with The Mummy 2 with the Anaximandrone fight. That is my favorite fight scene of the two movies.
When they're battling back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, that's a cool fight. I just love that sand. I really do. I think that's such an impressive piece, and I think that huge wave of sand made the movie an extra 100 mil because it's just
Easy,
such a great
easy.
scene. It got butts and seats. So yeah, we differed on one. I like it.
Yeah. And then our last is better supporting character.
Oh, come on
That's
now.
easy.
Yeah, Kevin
Yeah.
J. O'Connor.
Yeah. If Benny was in this movie would have probably be an Oscar winner.
You're on the other side of the river. Like, oh man, oh, I got the horses. Oh, he was perfection. And he and Stephen Sommers always work. We've talked about 3 of his films,
Mm.
right? We did Deep
Yeah.
Rising, we
Hmm.
did Van Helsing, and then we also talked about The Mummy. And he's just pure 3 Stephen Sommers movies, and it's pure gold in all of them.
Yeah. And then we also did one that was similar to all of those, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh goodness.
I mean, that's the sort of this movie, actually. Like
Yeah,
it's like I don't dislike League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but it's just action.
it really is. And uh, yeah, this movie, the one thing that they went over budget on was blanks and squib hits, which is that's what Stephen Sommers said. And I guess there are a lot of deleted scenes. Like there's a scene where uh, Emotep is hanging out, and there's a guy who just walks in the background eating beans and interrupts him, and he just takes his hand and sends the guy eating beans flying to his
What?
death, which is that's funny. That's what I want to see. and, and like they have that gigantic mansion. Like Brendan Fraser didn't even want that mansion, but that's really in Tony Scott's house on the set on the studio where they shot. So Fraser didn't even want that house, but they're like, well, it's here, so we're going to use it. So it's there's a lot of interesting behind this. The like The Rock got horrible food poisoning during the scene, so pretty much all of his scenes he's sick, and it's just I don't know. They shut down the Tower Bridge for there's cool stuff behind the scenes, but this is just an action movie. I don't know. It's not a romance. It's not. The first one was a romance.
Mhm.
It was one thing I love about the '90s though, and this I know this came out in '01, but first in the '90s we had Rocketeer, Shadow, Phantom, Zorro, The Mummy. Like we had some. Like I think they were actively trying to sort of. Sorry for this word again. To tell like an old school yarn retro comic booky film, but this one like ditched all that and just became an action movie, and then it's just an action movie. And I don't hate this movie. I own this movie. Like I've watched it a bunch of times. I'll put it on, but it's just The Mummy Returns. It's kind of a bummer.
So you mentioned their mansion. I have a surprise game for you.
Yeah.
So that mansion is Mentor Tower from the exterior. That's what it is. And that tower mansion has shown up in a lot of movies. I'm going to give you 4 movies and you tell me if it's in that movie or not.
Okay.
Batman Begins.
Yes.
It is. It is Wayne
Yeah.
Manor.
I've closed my eyes and we're on video, so I'm not typing stuff in. And you did not tell me in advance. So I'm not cheating here.
Lara Croft, Tomb Raider.
Yes.
No, it's the
Oh.
Hatfield House. I
Okay.
would have said yes. I thought
Yeah.
it was. X-Men First Class.
Yes.
No,
No,
Ingfield House.
they shot it here in Georgia, didn't they? Most of X-Men First Class. All right, one more.
Okay. Eyes Wide Shut.
Yes.
You're right. You get 50. You win. You got two. So I guess it's 50-50.
If I would have thought about it, they didn't even shoot X-Men over there. Like they shot X-Men in like around here. So, well, at least, yeah. Yeah, I'm happy. I said yes to all four. And
Yeah,
I
I
got
really
50%.
thought it was. Yeah, I really thought it was Lara Croft. I really thought it was that one. I was like, yeah, that's totally where Lara Croft plays. No, it wasn't.
Those movies are fun, dude. Have you watched those recently?
No, I've wanted to. Have you covered them?
No, I haven't. I would love to because I don't think Angelina Jolie gets enough credit for being awesome. And listen, the second one features a shark being punched and it features a jet ski.
And Daniel
And
Craig.
yeah, no, Jerry Butler's in the second one. Daniel
Oh,
Craig's in the
okay.
first one. But the
Okay,
first
yeah.
one's good, man. The first one's fun.
I mean, add it to the list, Mark. I would happily do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Happily do that.
Yeah, yeah, we'll be about 40 movies, but we'll have covered eventually. We're gonna be around for a while, MFF, so I'm not worried about
Yeah.
it.
So I did want to run through our favorite parts because we keep saying this is action movie, that's movie, but I want to say here are the things that I really like about this film. Did you put a list together or should I just run through mine?
You go, I go.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna start at the bottom and work my way up to number one. And so I think the bus fight is pretty good. Like
Yeah.
I like it. I like the bus fight.
I mean, it has a bunch of people I like on a bus fighting mummies. There's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. And it's got B Frage going through action. I dig it. Like they steal
Yeah,
a
and
bus.
And I was worried about I forgot his name. Over said the Magi.
Jonathan? Oh yeah, you were worried about him.
Yeah, I got worried about him. I thought they were going to kill him in this movie. It's been so long since I had seen it that I forgot that he survived.
You can't kill Ardith Bay. He should have been dead in the first one, but people loved him so much. Ardith Bay is an immortal. I'm gonna start with my favorite, and I think it's just the chemistry between Rachel and Brendan. Like they really like they clearly weren't in love, but you can tell they like each other. They got like they have a screen presence together where you feel the affection of the two of them. It's nice. Like when their scenes are together, when they're together, like it never feels fake. You can tell that the two of them actually like each other.
And they're having fun. Yeah, absolutely.
And they're both Oscar winners now. So that's amazing.
Yeah, that's true. So number 4, Emotep catching the spear. I thought that was so cool. Just as cool as the last time I watched it.
That was awesome. And then Rick catches a spear. It's like, how many? Is it that easy? But I guess I'll say number 2 is when he falls to his death, when he just cries, the tears in his eyes, and he just drops. Like that's good acting. Like that's a good moment for him, and he sells the heck out of it. So that's my number 2.
Yeah. Number 3, we haven't talked about the scene, snake throw. Yeah, he catches the snake, they throw it at and throws back. I did laugh out loud at that. I was like, this is a smart gag.
I like that whole fight when Jonathan comes in, he has that lady, and then they think he is Rick, and then he's just lying his face off. And then Rick does walk in and you get a snake throw. You know what? I'm gonna put that as my number 3. Like I love that scene. Like it's funny, and those are the moments that really capture the spirit of this movie, I think. Like, and it does a great job of it. So that's my number 3.
Yeah, and it sets up him catching the spear later.
Oh yeah.
Number 2, Emotep letting himself fall. We've talked about it over and over. It is the best scene in the movie. Not my favorite scene, but I think it's the most well put together scene.
I guess I'll go with. I mean, I love the quicksand scene and the things run on the people's heads. Like, just give me quicksand in a movie and then give me little things running on their heads. I'll take that. It's a good gag. So that's my number 4.
Yeah, and my number 1 is, I think everyone guessed it, the Eevee fight scene.
Oh crap, that's my number 3. Yeah, so that's my number 3. The snake catch and then the pygmy. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. And so
they're awesome in that. Like that's cool. Action Vice, Action Rachel.
Yeah. So again, what was your, just so I got it down? It was
number 1 is the chemistry between Rick and Eevee. Number 2 is the fall. Number 3 is the fight. Number 4 is the snake. And number 5 is the quicksand when they're running on their heads. It's just cheeky.
Yeah. Okay. We didn't mention The Rock at all. I think, like, should we just say, so if anyone's listening to this movie who wasn't around when this movie came out, he was really, really promoted in it. And when I saw this at the drive-in, when it came out, people laughed. They were so disappointed in The Rock's face and the CGI at that movie. And it's now a meme. But it happened when it came out. Like people were just like, what is this? We were told The Rock was going to be in this movie and he really was in it for 3 minutes. Huge disappointment.
Yeah, and yeah, it was bad. And all he does is yell in the beginning and go, "Rah, rah, rah," and then he kills some people, and then he leads an army, then he loses, and then he just becomes the punk of Anubis, and then he becomes a scorpion, a CGI VFX scorpion. But like this is the year when he was like winning the undisputed WWF title. This is WWF back then. Like he was the world wrestling champion in 2001. Like this guy was everywhere. He was getting primed to blow up. And I don't even know why I said, well, he only did the movie to do Scorpion King, but yeah,
I've never seen his Scorpion King. I mean, I'm assuming we're going to cover it eventually.
listen, it's fun. It really is. You can tell it's like a WWE type movie, but I think the director of the film did a really good job protecting him as an actor. And I think you got Michael Clark Duncan in there. You have some good, the villain's actually pretty interesting. There's some good bow and arrow action. It's worth watching. We sound super down on this movie, David.
But we do, but I'm not. It's just, I mean, it's hard to talk about a movie that you sort of like, right? Like I don't dislike it enough to come at it hard, and I don't like it enough to say that you need to go out right now and watch it. You saying it was a TNT movie is perfect. It's on. I'll watch it. It'll be great in the moment. I will forget about it, and then another 3 years will go by, and I'll watch it again.
You know, there are films I think that are made with less quality and less cohesion, but they have more of a personality, and thus I remember them more. This movie doesn't really have a personality. It's more of a, we saw this in 99 and now it's bigger. So I don't know if that's good or bad. It's just a fine action film. It's a TNT movie.
I mean,
but it doesn't have much to talk about though. Like there are no themes to explore. There's no mythology to explore. Like there are some issues, like it's raining outside, like the years don't really match up. But and like this is their first 5,000 years. Like he comes back every 5,000 years. This is the first time he's done it. It's like, but people know about it. So, but it's not worth, like they were complaining about Roger Ebert poking holes in it. And I agree, like this is the Mummy sequel. So it's not really worth poking holes in. But yeah, nothing happens that you can just really sink your teeth into. Like I think you and I have covered movies before, maybe like a Van Helsing, or we did the Wolfman. Like we did a whole series about Universal monsters. And I think movies that are maybe less put together are still have a little bit more personality, and you're able to sink your teeth into it, like Underworld, and discuss more and find fun themes. But there's just not much there because this is just a fun TNT movie.
Yeah. I mean, the theme that they're trying to do with, well, there's a lot of themes, but they all kind of fizzled out. But what they were trying to do with Rick was him believing, because it's like, oh, he's the prophesized one. But you're like, what? I don't understand. Where did this come from? And then trying to get him to believe in magic, but he'd already seen it. I did not get that at one bit. And actually, I think that's really a disservice here, because like what I wanted Rick's motivation to be was him not thinking he's good enough to be with Evie. And this movie that would be him proving it again.
Or just getting used to a life of being rich. He was a criminal for many years. Like he's not used to this life. He has an amazing wife. Now they're just comfortable and old and have a kid. So you miss a lot of that growth, because now he's just a settled dude and he's happy. But yeah, I don't believe in magic. I don't believe in prophecies. But then at the end,
he's already seen magic. He's already seen it.
With the spear, there's an entire guide of what to do with the spear.
Is that supposed to be funny? Or like, is it supposed to be a gag?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. It has to be. Like that has to be funny, right? But this movie plays so straight faced.
I read it as serious, but then now that you're talking about it, I was like, it could have been a sight gag, but it didn't work.
Yeah, I didn't laugh. But now I think about it, and there's a 3-step process on how to kill the scorpion. And there's even a picture of the Scorpion King going, ugh, getting hit by the thing.
So
I love it. Yeah. Hey, so what's our draft? What are we drafting tonight?
We're going to draft movies with wrestlers in them.
Oh my god!
And let me tell you, Mark, this is I'm going to get excited about this. I didn't expect there to be so many movies.
Oh, there's a ton. There's a lot.
I think we're going to have some of the same that we're going to go for. Also, some we're going to be like, should we really count this?
All right. So what are you gonna? So should we do starring wrestlers or just
Oh,
featuring a wrestler? Because Warrior
I
2011 Warrior features Kurt Angle in a very minor role, and Warrior is incredible.
so I would say they have to have a speaking line. So is it? It's like if it's a cameo, is that enough?
Because that's cheating.
Like no speaking
Well, but The
lines
Rock
doesn't
is a
count.
cameo though.
Exactly, exactly.
So
And
anything.
honestly,
Let's do anything.
anything. Okay, okay. We'll just get what we want out there. Well, this is going to be a chaotic draft.
All right, I'll let
Mark,
you go first.
no, I actually want you to go first.
Oh, I get to go first.
You do. I really want you to go first on this.
They live.
They live. I knew that was going to be your number one. Knew it, knew it, knew it.
I got my boy Keith
And
David. I got my boy Roddy Piper, John Carpenter.
okay, so we're gonna have to have a real discussion on this one. Scream, because David Arquette technically was the heavyweight champion of the world.
But he became it in what, 01? So he wasn't a wrestler yet. So you can take
Yes.
anything after that.
So that would be Scream
4
4.
or Scream 5 Cream.
Do I like 4 better than 5. I'm gonna go with Scream 4.
Okay, Scream 4. Oh man. All right, well, I'm gonna take Warrior because I think that's like one of my favorite movies and Kurt Angle's in it. So I'm gonna do that one.
Ooh, Kurt Angle, a real wrestler.
Yeah.
Not a real, you know what I mean?
Yeah. A real wrestler became a wrestler.
All right. There's so many good ones. So many good ones.
I think I know what you're gonna pick.
I'm gonna go with Predator. Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh, that's really good. All right, well, I'm gonna since that's really good, I'm gonna take Fast Five.
I knew it. That was my other option.
All right, what you got? There's so many more though.
All right.
Oh,
There's a huge one. I know if I don't take it. The Princess Bride.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, with Andre the Giant.
Oh man, that's a really good pull. All right, so you got the Princess Bride. So you have Scream 4, Predator, Princess Bride. I have They Live, Warrior, Fast Five. This is we're going for it. This one.
We are. I didn't expect us to.
This one is gnarly, my friend. Okay. Oh wow. So pardon me if you give me a second. I normally I have, let's see. Oh man, I'm not taking Mr. Nanny. Let's see. Oh, you know what? The Suicide Squad.
Oh, okay.
What a movie.
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
movie. John Cena.
Okay. Knock at the Cabin.
Oh,
Dave Bautista.
oh, that's a really good one.
It's my favorite movie of the year so far.
Oh man. So wait, we have Batista in here now. Like I could take Dune.
You could. I didn't even think about that. You absolutely could take Dune.
I mean, are we like should we take a silly one? You know what I mean? Like I could tiny what Zeus Lister was wrestling when he was in Fifth Element. He was in Friday. When did Tiny Zeus Lister start? Was he a wrestler?
I don't think he was a wrestler.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I want to MacGruber. I'm gonna take MacGruber. Have you seen that?
I have. I watched it because you recommended it, and I laughed.
That wrestling bit is really funny in it. So I'm gonna take MacGruber.
Okay, so we're into the last pick of the draft, number 5.
Mhm.
Or number 5. I'm gonna run through ones because I think this is really harder than you would think it is. The Expendables with Steve Austin.
Mm.
You have Randy Savage with Spider-Man. It's a cameo, but it's a great part of the movie. You have The Running Man with again Jesse the Body Ventura. And then I have a bunch of like minor ones that I don't think really count. So like Kevin Nash is in John Wick. Tom McGee is in Stone Cold. Terry Funk
Magic
is
Mike.
Yeah, Magic Mike. Oh. Which one do I want more? Magic Mike 1 or Magic Mike 2?
I mean, people love the second one. People love, right?
It's funny. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I guess the other question is we don't have a Hulk Hogan in here. And do we want one?
We don't need a Hulk Hogan.
We don't need a Hulk Hogan.
No.
Okay, I'm going to Magic Mike 2.
Oh man, is that Magic Mike XL?
XXL.
The XXL is the second one. Okay.
Or maybe it's XL.
Let's see. Magic Mike movies. I think it is XXL. You are right, XXL. I love it. I'm telling you, man, there's a lot more. There's the Wolverine. Oh, Mad Max Fury Road. Oh, Kickboxer Vengeance, Thor. Oh man, Unleashed. There's too many. Alligator.
Alligator 2.
Oh man, just Drive Angry.
We didn't Rocky 3.
Yeah, there's a lot. Donnie Darko. What's Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah, Dave Bautista. We didn't even think about that. Wow.
There's a lot. But you know what? I'm very happy with my team. I love They Live. I love Warrior. I love Fast Five. I love the Suicide Squad, and I love the cameos in MacGruber are brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a great squad too. Scream 4, Predator, The Princess Bride, Knock at the Cabin, Magic Mike, XXL.
Do
Perfect.
we want to try to get this down to 1-5er? Is this
Yeah,
the Royal Rumble?
yeah. I mean, so we got to do Predator and Princess Bride.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Like you have to. And I
Yeah.
think They Live, right?
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm willing to drop basically all the other ones I have. So what are the ones you are left for
I
you?
mean, like
Fast
Fast
Five?
Five, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
that's like maybe because he's in it the most. Like Furious 7, he was injured a lot. Furious 6 is great, but Fast 5 is considered like creme de la
That's
creme. I mean,
yeah,
but there's
that's
also The Wrestler though. There's also like Rocky 3. There's also um
we didn't pick them. We gotta go
yeah.
with our
Oh,
list.
well, okay. Can we just do MacGruber? Because there's so many
Yes,
wrestlers in
do
it.
it. Do it.
Okay.
That's great.
I actually think Jericho's really funny in it too. So our top 5 is Predator, Princess Bride, They Live, Fast Five, MacGruber. That's unbeatable.
No, no one's gonna beat that.
Yeah. You can't touch it. Can't touch this. No. It's done. I kind of think Magic Mike XXL would have been a fun ad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
This also reminds me to watch the Expendables because I've never seen it.
Oh, dude. Okay. Yeah. Expendables 2 is amazing. Adkins is in it. JCVD. Expendables 3 is fun. Expendables 1. Expendables 1 is probably my least favorite of all of them.
But you gotta start
But
somewhere.
it's amazing. They're all, I don't care, man. The fourth one has Tony Jaa and Iko Uwais. Come on now. They're amazing. But hey, David, where can people find you before we get out of here?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Itsmedavidcross. I also co-host Award Wieners. It's an irregular podcast, and we cover Oscar Best Picture winning movies. And we are gearing up to do The Great Ziegfeld, which is a very long movie from like 1936. It's about Ziegfeld, who ran essentially Broadway.
Ooh.
It's interesting. The character himself very interesting. The movie has interesting parts, but it's a very long movie. It's
and there's a lot of research too.
Yeah, that's always when you do Oscar winning movies, you got to read a lot about why it's happening, especially these older ones, about contemporary, why they won, what's happening in the culture. In this case, this guy was super famous, and it was like essentially a mega mogul in the entertainment industry.
Sometimes I think the context of why it won is more interesting than the actual winning movie.
It is. It was 100%. It is. Yeah.
Like the politics at the time, who won, what was the momentum, what was it up against, like that. And did someone was there a scandal from one of the actors that might have heard it? Did the director say something dumb? I dig it. But that's all covered in Award Wieners. So
yeah. And then I know, just to give everyone a taste, there's this movie called Cavalcade, and it won, and it's black and white, early mid, or actually probably mid to late 1920s. And this thing that blew my mind is that they were jumping through history, showing the most interesting points of the previous century. And it's sort of like this thing clicked for me that people wouldn't be able to do that at that point in history. And so the movies were how they could go and relive these things or easily relive these moments. That's why I won.
Smart.
Yeah. It's called Cavalcade because time just keeps going.
Oh, dropping it. Well, thank you, man. We finally, listen, we've been wanting to talk this movie since 2019.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably. So
maybe 2018.
So we did it. Like we did it. And I'm happy to explore this. I know we didn't have the most positive things to say about it, but it's Mummy Returns.
I mean, I still love the Mummy.
That's right. And I mean, listen, Rachel Weisz is always awesome. Brendan Fraser just won an Oscar. Stoked for all of them. They did a great job. Also, watch Hard Target. I really like Arnold Vosloo in that movie. He's great. Just letting everyone know. Him and Lance Henriksen, perfect together. All right, so thank you for joining me, David.
Thanks. This was a blast.
All right, so for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for David Cross, this is Movie Sons of Flicks. We'll see you next week.